So you hear all the time people talking about how you need to separate your time from time from your money, time from your earnings, and how it's not about what you it's not about putting in the time, not about punching the clock. It's about what you do with the time, right? Like I talk about this a lot, which is just helping people try to reframe that time is not your most valuable asset. Yes, it is a limited asset. You only got so much life, but it's not the important piece of the equation here. And the problem is it's so deeply ingrained in how we think about the world. And for most of us, if you went to school, I'm going to say in like, you know, in a Western environment, I don't know how they do it, you know, in other locations, but here in the US, we are taught to equate putting in your time with getting the value. And it's not so much it's not so much what you do with that time, because it doesn't really matter if you're in 8th grade and you get an A on your history test or you get a C, right? Like C's get degrees just as much as the A's. The A's get some accolades, but nobody cares about it in the real world. And so we're taught from a very early age that, hey, no matter how great you are or how mediocre you are in school, you're gonna move on if you just put in a requisite amount of time. You put in your 12 months and you will move on to 9th grade. As soon as you're 14 years old, you move on to the next grade. At 15, you move on to the next grade. So we're taught to equate progress with time. And so then later in life, when we go to the job and we put in we punch the clock and then we get paid our salary for putting in 40 hours, again, we're taught to equate, you put in the time and you get compensated for it. And the big problem is that a lot of us were taught to just go through the motions. I figured this out in school. I figured out that this is a stupid game to play. It's a stupid game to excel at, because if I'm going to get a degree for getting a C and you're going to get a degree for getting an A, but the amount of time that you have to put in is 6 times that, then it's not worth the time and energy. Now, it would be worth the time and energy if the thing that you're learning and gaining competence at is actually something that's going to lead you to bring more value into the world. But the truth is that that's not even a good proxy. You getting an A in art history is not going to translate into your accounting degree. It's not going to make you more valuable in an accounting real world environment, right? And so you put time and energy into mastering a thing that didn't matter, didn't move the needle. And so a lot of people like me, they go through the motions in school, recognizing that mediocrity is no different than excellence in this environment. And it's the wrong lesson. It's the wrong lesson, because in the real world, excellence always is rewarded. It is always a definitive advantage. To be great at what you do is what separates you from everybody else. So the excellent accountant is 10-fold, 100-fold more compensated than the guy who's just average. And so we're taught the wrong lesson in school, that we equate time with, you know, putting in your time, you get the value out. We equate, oh, I just need to do the bare minimum and I will be equally compensated. Doesn't really matter. And I did this again, like I'm speaking from my own personal experience, having worked countless W-2 jobs that I got fired from because I was just going through the motions, doing the bare minimum to just get by. Like, hey, you paid me for 40 hours and you said this is my job description. I'm not going to give you any more than that. If you want more, you need to pay me more, because I had this very linear relationship in my mind between the work I do and the compensation I expect. Not realizing that the most valuable thing you get from doing the work is what the work does to you as the individual and helping you level up. And if you think of yourself like a video game character, you don't just go through the bare minimum in grinding out the XP. You're like, I want to make that boss as easy as possible. I'm going to kill as many cows as it takes. I'm going to level up. I'm going to get all the skill tree. I'm going to complete the adventure. Most people don't think about that in terms of their own life. Like, I want to be a completionist in the video game. I want to get all the hidden things. I want to go on the side quest. But then when it comes to like in your own real life, you're like, what's the minimum amount of energy I can put into this to get the result that I want? And it's the wrong mindset, because most people, the reason they do that, again, is because they don't love what they do. Is because they've been taught from a very early age that your inputs do not affect the outputs. Doesn't matter how hard you work in the math class in 9th grade, you can only get 100. But in the real world, you can get 100 million. There is no cap. And the difference between the guy who gets 100 on the test and a 99 on the test is functionally no different. But the guy who runs 10 seconds flat in the 100 meters at the Olympics versus the guy who runs a 10.1, it's everything. It's everything. And that's why, like, in the real world, excellence always wins. Your goal is to become the greatest version of yourself possible. And that's why such a core part of my message is Move towards your greatest self. Always be moving towards your greatness. This isn't some alpha male pound on your chest like, let's go be badasses, go be the best version of yourself, like take over the world. No, it's just recognizing that the only thing you get to carry with you through this life is you, the person that's the result of the work that you do. And so why wouldn't you want to be the greatest version of yourself? Like, why would you want to phone it in? And I did not understand that when I was young, because again, we're programmed to think like poor people. We're programmed to do the bare minimum. We're programmed to sit around and wait to be told what to do. But if you have to be told what to do, you're just a cog in the machine and you can be replaced. So you have to find problems. You have to add value to the world without being told. You can't just be sitting around waiting for somebody to guide you by the hand up the top of the mountain, because that person's never coming. The only person who's going to carry you up the mountain is you. So go work on getting really strong legs, get as strong as possible, get as excellent at what you do as possible, and the journey gets that much easier. The amount that you can carry up that hill. That's the part that I get really excited about, though. Isn't just like at a certain point you recognize, okay, I have strong enough legs to get myself to the top of the mountain. But you stop thinking outside of yourself, or you start thinking outside of yourself, because in a very large way, you do the world no favors by playing small. So you start to think of, well, how strong could I get? How many people could I carry up this mountain with me? Or like, how much weight could I carry to the top with me? Because everything that you carry to the top then is a bounty to everybody else. And I think that's why, it's such a shame that rich people are generally hated on and villainized as being greedy, where I look at rich people typically as like they're doing so much good for the world through their abundance. People like to hate on Elon Musk, but there's not another human on this planet that's doing more to try and move humanity towards a better, brighter future. It's amazing, and yet we hate him for it. So there's also a deep lesson there. But yeah, I just think, okay, we're told separate your time from money, time from value, all that stuff. But once, it's really hard to do until you understand just how deeply it's wired into our programming. But once you're aware of that, you can start to rewrite that programming. So that'll do it for me, guys and gals. Got a little preachy guy on my soapbox on this one, but hopefully this one brings you guys a little bit of value. If you want to go deeper on this one, go to youtube.com/Anthony Vicino to the main channel. You can check out a video that we did where I dive deep into how we are programmed for a life of poverty. Go check that video out, because I think being aware that you have a problem is step one in solving the problem. So we'll catch you guys in the next episode. But until then, stay hyper-focused, my friends.